enigmatic phrase, Dayo la'ovel she'amod be'evlo. So the Rashi is to the left of that section of the Gemara, which right, great, there it is. Stop. Dayo Kodesh Baruch Hu, since two pshatim in Rashi. One pshat in Rashi, Dayo Kodesh Baruch Hu omed kama yamim v'yimino achor. Klomar, im lo yasu tshuva, eino omed be'evlo kol hayamim. According to this pshat, Avel is referring to Yachol to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu is now in a state where his hand, so to speak, is tied behind his back. Meaning, the situation of the Jewish people being oppressed, situation where HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, in a certain sense, is hidden. After all, Rabbi Greenberg often points out that the fact that the Jewish people are in Golus is a Chilul Hashem of sorts. After all, we were chosen by God, and thus we would expect that as the chosen people, it would be clear to all that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence is connected to the Jewish people. So the state of the Jewish people being in Golus is an unnatural state. So in a certain sense, Kivyachol, Shmuel hints to this situation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu not being able to show his close to the Jewish people. That's Ki'ilu state of Avelus. So it's enough time, meaning it's too much time, how's the expression, enough is enough. It's long enough that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has been in this unnatural state, this unnatural situation. And there has to be an end to the Golus even without Teshuva. Lishna Achrina. The Lishna Achrina in Rashi is also fascinating. According to the second pshat in Rashi, by the way, I'm sorry, just on the first pshat, Rav Sadi Gaon, when he speaks of the fact that there's going to be a future redemption, he says, one explanation he gives for why we're so sure there's a future redemption, that he says along the lines of this Rashi that state in which the Jewish people is being oppressed is in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Shekhinah is not revealed on the Jewish people. I think as along those lines, it says that's an unnatural state. So therefore, there just has to be an end to this. There has to be a time when the redemption will come. In any case, Lishna Achrina. Dayan Avel, Dayan Yisrael, Sa'ar Golas Afilu B'lo Tshuva Niga'alin. According to this pshat, Abba refers to the Jewish people. And it is saying that the redemption has to come about. Why? Even if you don't have tshuva, but there's the suffering, the abelus, the suffering which we've had in Golus, which is sufficient basis for the redemption. According to this pshat, so even if there's no tshuva, but there's something else which makes us worthy of redemption, and that is the suffering. The suffering which we've been going through, that is a basis for the redemption. Why is that a basis for redemption? So on one hand, it could be that it's based on the fact that Yisurim are mechaper. Yisurim are mechaper. Beyond that, if we remember that the suffering which we undergo in Golus is largely suffering because we're God's people, that's something that should be the basis of our deserving, so to speak, a redemption. We remember, I had mentioned in Shir that the enemies of the Jewish people are referred to as enemies of God. And why is this so? So one pshat that we mentioned is that the reason why the Goyim hate us, the reason why the Goyim are oppressing us, is due to the fact that we're God's people. So we're suffering because of our being God's people, and hence, when we suffer, then we suffer greatly, then we have the right to expect that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will redeem us, right to expect that this is something that will bring about kapara. And Rabbi Say certainly the cumulative suffering which the Jewish people had suffered throughout the ages, and the various pogroms and massacres and inquisitions, and certainly the Holocaust, the suffering that has taken place then is undescribable. And certainly we have good reason to hope that that would serve as the basis of our redemption. So that's an important point. The Ramban ala Torah also is in Tocham Parshas B'chukosai. The pasuk there says, "O az yikana levavam ha'arel, v'az yirtzuas avonam." O az yikana levavam ha'arel, and Golas, then our heart will do some sort of tshuva. V'az yirtzuas avonam. So Ramban there understands that there's two options being mentioned in the pasuk. One option, one possibility, the galus will terminate as a result of tshuva. Another option, the galus will terminate as a result of the ritzui avonos. Ritzui avonos will come about through yisurim. Let's keep in mind that yisurim are mechaper bein for the yachid, bein for the tzibur. They're especially mechaper when we're mekabel esadin, when we don't say, "Hey God, this isn't fair," but rather we understand that. For some reason, even if we're not aware of it, these Yisurim are just, they are fair, they do play some role. Okay. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva does, I'm sorry, before we get that Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, what's the maskana of the Gemara? The maskana of the Gemara, if you take a look at the continuation of that section, right under this, if we go down on the right, you got it. The Gemara says, "V'shasak Rab Lazar." Rab Lazar was silent. Lashon Yisham is talak Rab Lazar. So normally assume that that Rab Lazar was modet Rabbi Yoshua. So we assume the maskana like Rabbi Yoshua that there's no need for tshuva, or there will be some sort of a tshuva, maybe a tshuva yira. We have over here the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, Kol Anavim Kulan, source 6. Kol Anavim Kulan, Tzivu ala Tshuva. Ve'ein Yisrael Nigalan ela b'tshuva. Ein Yisrael Nigalan ela b'tshuva. V'abdicha Tor, shesof Yisrael lasos Tshuva, sof galusan miyad hein Nigalan. Shenemar v'kolecha kol ha-brachos v'kolula v'chol ha-b'shagosa l'levavecha. So Rambam paskins that there will be tshuva and ein Yisrael Nigalan ela b'tshuva. What is the source of this Rambam? The Mishnah brings some Gemara and Yoma. On the other hand, those that say the Rambam is based on this Gemara and Sanhedrin. Would the Rambam work out with Shitas Rabbi Yoshua? After all, the Gemara's maskana seems to be that Rabbi Lazar's mother is Rabbi Yoshua. The Rambam work out with Rabbi Yoshua? Well, perhaps yes, if you learn like the Bavli's version of Rabbi Yoshua that says that in Rabbi Yoshua there will be a tshuva. The Rambam, for that reason, doesn't mention a melech shegzeros of kosher kahaman. Maybe the Rambam felt to just get us depressed if he mentions that. I don't know. But the Rambam could fit in with perhaps Rabbi Yoshua according to the version of the Bavli. Maybe we'll take a look at the Ramban in Sefer Gula. That's at the top left of our screen now. The top left of our screen now, there's the Ramban. You got it. So there's two sections of Ramban, one in Sefer Gula. Oh, great, amazing. V'chen be'inin Mashiach atzmo. This Ramban in Sefer Gula, as you see, Reisha Ayin Zayin in the Malsar of Cook. V'chen be'inin Mashiach atzmo nachku b'arabal sen. Mehem Yisha Amar mein Yisrael sin tshuva ein egale. Hu Rab Lazar. V'yadas ha'chacham hazem ma shamarti ken elokim meitiv l'misha ein ra'ui. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't do favors to a person who's not worthy. V'apapi she'amoda b'keitz nechtach, even though it's moda, that there's some keitz that eventually has to come. Nobody denies that the keitz has to come. Even after the keitz that's mentioned in the Psukim Sefer Daniel, Ad bo hadar roi she'asa tshuva. Which Baruch is waiting for tshuva. Kasher herich mitor Chizkiyahu adena. After all, Chizkiyahu had the potential to be Mashiach, but the Jewish people didn't do tshuva. Therefore, things are stalled. Things are waiting. Perhaps Ramban understood like the Yerushalmi, i.e., that there will be a tshuva that might come about, according to Rab Lazar, through Melech Shik Joseph Kasha Kama. And continues the Ramban in line 7, Mehem, amongst them, i.e., Ratzoni Lomar Mechacham Yisrael, Vishiskim, Sha'afa Bisha and Tshuva, Vishiskim, a person that decided, Sha'afa Bisha Enos and Tshuva Hem Nigalin, Vu Rabbi Yoshua, V'nitzchal Rab Lazar. Skipping to the underline, Ratza Chacham Lomar, Kinyan Mutne B'Tshuva, V'taloi Bir'ava Avodah, Achir Shlo Zman Kotzev Shlo Ya'arich Yosef, Kvar Higia Tor, Va'is Kibul Schar Miktzas Mitzvah Shasa Yisrael B'Kablas HaTorah, V'Shimur Ikar Hadas, Im Yosam Chet'im, Achot'im Miktzas Mitzvah Achinam Parkim Ula Me'alehem. So whereas Rabbi Lazar says, hey, God doesn't do tova to a person that's not worthy, Rabbi Yeshua says, no, there needs to be reward for the mitzvahs which Jewish people have done, that which they basically accepted the Torah, even though there are some that are sinning. Nevertheless, as long as we haven't totally rejected the whole of Torah, so there needs to be a time of reward for the righteous. Let's keep in mind, according to Ramban, the ultimate reward for the righteous is one which has not taken place yet. It's someone that there is some sort of a reward for the righteous that's taking place now, but the full reward for the righteous will be at the time of the redemption. So that time needs to come. And hence, says Ramban, there needs to be a redemption eventually. So there's this difficult line over here, which we have to try to figure. Maybe we'll try to figure out a little bit what it means. Lines 10 and 11. Ratza Chacham Lomar, Rabbi Yeshua. Ka'inyan mutne b'tshuva b'taloi bir'av avodah ach yesh lo zman katzur b'shelo yarach yoser. So what's that mean? On one hand, it depends on tshuva. It depends on yirav avodah. On the other hand, it has a set time. So isn't that an oxymoron? Is that a contradiction? On one hand, it depends on tshuva and yirav avodah. On the other hand, it has a set time, beyond which it can't be delayed. So what the Ramban might be saying, I think the English translation of Chevelle, I think it translates this as some along the lines that although it is dependent on tshuva and yirav avodah, nevertheless, notwithstanding, it has a zman katzur. So what it seems the Ramban is saying is that on one hand, it's dependent on tshuva in the sense that when we do tshuva, that's something that will hasten redemption. That's something that when we're involved in yirav avodah, that will bring it more quickly. But there's some end point, there's some point at which God has in mind, so to speak, that if the tshuva doesn't come by then there will be a redemption. Redemption has to happen because, after all, there are certain elements of redemption which just have to take place. There has to be reward for the righteous on the mitzvahs which they have done. So the Ramban over here does, on one hand, require tshuva, perhaps as something that greatly hastens redemption and maybe makes the period of redemption less, the initial stages less painful. The other hand does have zman katzur. And this might resolve, this funny line in the Ramban might resolve stira that seems to appear in the Ramban. The Ramban in Ha'azinu, which I think is a little bit under this in the sheet. You got it. The Ramban says in Ha'azinu, V'nei ein b'shir azos t'nai b'tshuva b'avoda. In Ha'azinu, there's no t'nai b'tshuva b'avoda for the redemption, and says Ramban, Ein b'shir azot tanai b'shuv v'vodor ki shtar edus shenaseh ha'ra'os v'nuchal shizbach yasa ban mitocho chos chema avalo yashbis zechenu. God will not destroy us. Yeshuv v'nesachem Friedman ha'yivim. God will punish the enemies. Im ken yishra zos ha'avtacha m'varas b'gula sida. This is a clear havtacha on the future redemption. Al karchan shal minim. Meaning against what the minim said that the Jewish people were rejected. So on one hand, the Ramban here says that ein b'shir azos t'nai b'tshuva v'avoda. On the other hand, the Ramban in B'chukosai, which we don't have on the sheet, the Ramban in B'chukosai, I'll read to you from there, when he talks about the fact that the tochacha in B'chukosai is connected to Churban Bayis Rishon, the tochacha in Kisavo, in Dvarim is connected to Churban Bayis Sheni. He has over there a line that the bris of Mishnah Torah is a remez to our current golus, and he says, amongst other things, the fact that in Parshas B'chukosai, Loner Maz Sham Keitz V'Ketzev Lo V'tiach B'Gula Rak Tala Osa B'T. One second, please. Again, the bris in Mishnah Torah. The bris in Mishnah Torah, Tochan Mishnah Torah in Kisavo, is a remez to our current golus, and he says that it doesn't indicate when the case is going to be. Rather, it's dependent on tshuva. So, because the Ramban in B'chukosai writes that in Mishnah Torah it speaks of tshuva as something that will bring about the redemption. After all, the psukim in Nitzavim Vayelech speak of a tshuva. On the other hand, the Ramban here in Ha'azinu seems to indicate that won't necessarily require a tshuva. So, somewhat of a stira. If I'm not mistaken, I think in the English art scroll in the Ramban in Ha'azinu, we might have some reference to this, or maybe the Ramban in B'chukosai. According to Ramban, we saw in Sefer Geula, perhaps there's somewhat of a resolution to that, after all, however you understand this line here, line 11, that on one hand it's Musna B'tshuva, B'tala B'yira B'avot, on the other hand it has his man Kotza. So, however you understand that line, that might be the basis of resolving that stira in the Ramban. We know that there's a famous Gemara in Chelek that says on the pasuk in the Yeshayo, which is in the Haftarah of one of the Zayin V'Nachamta, I don't remember which, the pasuk says, Ani Hashem, when it speaks of the redemption, Ani Hashem be'ita achishana. At its proper time, I will hasten it, which seems to be a contradiction. At its proper time, I will hasten redemption. So that the redemption come in its proper time, or will be hastened. So the Gemara says, Zachu achishana. The Jewish people is worthy. I will hasten the redemption. Lo zachu, they're not zocha, be'ita will come at its appointed time. So you have that idea, and the Gemara, that certainly tshuva will hasten the redemption. On the other hand, there's some appointed time at which the redemption will take place, even if we're not fully worthy. Okay. Moving on to another point with respect to the redemption. Let's take a look at the beginning of Perek Yud Beis of Hilchos Sanhedrin, of Hilchos Malachim that we have here on the sheet. I think the top middle, if I'm not mistaken. Wonderful. So now we've begun to discussion of Yemos Mashiach. Discuss that at least somewhat briefly. The Rambam speaks of the fact that during the period of Yemos Mashiach will not be a change in nature. The section about B'Shayav regards the Ebim Kevis, the line will lie with the lamb, B'namer Ebim Gedir Bats. Mashal B'chida, and Yana Davar, what's that Mashal Chida? The Jewish people that is compared to the lamb will get along with the nations of the world that are compared to the lion. Nihan Adav Yisrael Yoshvin Levetach Im Rishei Ha'olam HaMishulim K'Ze'eh Ben Amer. They quote psukim to this effect. Okay, that the world will be at peace. And then he quotes, the difference between Olam Hazeh and Mosam Mashiach will be that we will not be Meshubad to the Malchiyos. And then the Rambam goes on to the fact, to say that the pashtus of the psukim is that there will be, before Mosam Mashiach will be Melchamas Gog Magog, V'chulei, and he says, you see underlined, 2/3 way, 3/4 of the way down on our screen. A person can't know what exactly they're going to be about till they actually take place. Because after all these things, they're stumim meitzal neviim, and even the chacham do not have a clear kabbalah, and these things don't have clear besorah. It's rather they're looking at the psukim, and therefore there's a machlokas in that. And the Rambam says that it's not an ikar badas, it's not a basic principle of our religion, the exact order in which these things need to take place. It's not something which is critical. And therefore the Rambam says don't spend too much time on these agados. Okay. In any case, the Ravid there on Halacha Aleph, if you could just move back up to the Ravid, thank you very much. Amar Bram, how can you say there's not going to be a change in nature? After all, the pasuk says Vishbati Chayara Amina Haaretz, which sounds like the wild animals will no longer damage. What happened? We're just on the Ravid. The wild animals will no longer damage. Okay, that's as big as we could get. So how can you say that there won't be a change in nature? What would the Rambam respond to that? In one word, what do we assume the Rambam would respond to that? 3 letters. Begins with a mem.
Marshall.
Mashal, thank you. A mashal. Presumably the Rambam would say that that's a mashal. So what's the Ravid's question? The Rambam just tells us that those psukim all derech mashal. So what's the Ravid's kasha? So it seems that the Ravid assumes that those that suggest, the Ravid assumes that a pasuk in the Torah, you don't just understand as b'derech mashal. In Nevi'im Ksuvim, yes. In Torah, no. So if it says Vishpati Chayar Min Haaretz, then that can't be meant b'derech mashal. It needs to be kipshuta. The Rav Margalios points out the Rambam and Ravid might be l'shitasam. There's a pasuk with respect to Bab Machteres that says Im Zarcha Lav Hashemesh Tamim Lo, which the Rambam understands al derech mashal. The Ravid understands kipshuta. Okay, won't go into that now. Let me just point out what I will point out now is that the Ramban understands. I don't know. I don't recall at this moment what the Ramban's position is concerning this machlokes Rambam and Ravid, but I do remember the Ramban understands that which it says. You guys might remember Rishpati Chayra Amina Aretz. Ramban says that although that is something that seems was very unnatural, something pretty amazing that the wild animals will no longer damage, but he says in a certain sense that that's nothing really new. That's going back to their original state, because after all, before the Chet of Adam Arishon, then all of the animals just were herbivores. Even the wild animals ate grass, ate plants, and therefore, when mankind does Teshuva, mankind returns to its original state, and animals will as well. Okay. Concerning the Easter of calculating the end of days, so the Gemara says that it's improper to calculate the end of days. Why is this so? So we discussed this before for Pesach amongst the people that are now viewing. So we can try to cover this topic in 2 minutes. or we could discuss this topic a little bit more broadly. But as I said, something which we did in some talk before Pesach. Those that would prefer to discuss it briefly in the next 2 minutes rather than a more broad discussion. So please indicate that. Those who would like more broad discussion, please indicate that. So you have a tough tie over here, 0-0. So in any case, for now, let's discuss it briefly. Chazal said not to calculate the end of days. Why not? So a number of reasons given. The simplest reason given is that if a person tries to calculate the end of days and makes a mistake, after all, nobody could be sure that his calculation will be correct. So a person tries to calculate the end of days and makes a mistake, that's something that can bring about a situation where people are going to lose hope in the whole concept of Mashiach. People are going to lose hope in the whole concept of Mashiach. They'll say, apparently Mashiach didn't come at that appointed time, so perhaps the whole concept is not true, chas v'shalom. That's the simplest explanation. Alternatively, another explanation that's been given is that Chazal, in their times, didn't want us to try to calculate the end of days, because after all, they were afraid that in light of the fact that the time of the redemption was so far away, then if somebody would come to the correct conclusion that the redemption would be in the year Tafshin Pei, then people would say, that's too long, we can't survive, we can't last till then. So Chazal perhaps didn't want us to calculate the end of days due to the fact that if the end of days is so far away, then at the time, if a person would make a correct calculation that the end of days will take place another 500 years, then they wouldn't be able to hold on. What held the Jewish people during all sorts of difficult times was the understanding that Mashiach might be around the corner. On that basis, many scholars in more recent times felt that nowadays it's permissible to calculate the end of days, since they figured, well, hey, redemption must be, we've suffered for so many years, redemption must be around the corner, therefore there shouldn't be any problem in making this calculation. A third reason that we cited, and we discussed somewhat at length, something which I relate in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak Twersky, is that Chazal didn't want us to calculate the end of days due to the fact that if we calculate the end of days, then we're viewing the time at which Mashiach could come as being something static, as something which is given, as something fixed, as something which can't be changed. Now, it is true that there is one time in history when Mashiach will come, but currently now we're not meant to view that as something static, as something which is immutable. Meant to view it as something that can be hastened, something that can be brought about more quickly through our proper deeds, through our tshuva. Therefore, Chazal did not want us to figure out when, at the end of the day, Mashiach is going to come. Doing so will make you view the time of the coming of Mashiach as something that you can't bring about more quickly. Whereas Chazal wanted us to understand that we can hasten the coming of Mashiach through our deeds. And therefore, Chazal did not want us to calculate the end of days. Okay, B'ezrat Hashem, maybe some concluding comments, and on this Ikar, on the Yud Gimel Ikar next time, and then B'ezrat Hashem, Lineder, moving on to the Rambam Saktama to Pekei Avos. Okay, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties at the beginning, but we thank all those involved in making this meeting work, and thanks for everybody for joining us. Kol Tov, have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.